What do we do when we receive information? I am an external processor, and I'm going to share something personal here. My husband is an internal processor. At the beginning of our marriage, all I just wanted to do was externally process. And so I would talk, and he would interrupt so that he can give me a solution. And that would offend me a lot. And he didn't understand because he was like, I'm giving you a solution. Karibuni, and welcome back. It's great to be back. And this is Vivian Bwana, and this is Shonamoyo, where we talk, share, and empower. Have you watched last week's episode? Guys, I always feel like saying watched, so bear with me. Have you watched last week's episode? Listen, we talked about the Johari window, and let me tell you, the feedback is amazing. I'm glad this thing is really helping you guys, and there's so much more that we can do to learn who we are, to understand who we are, and the better we understand ourselves, the better and we live our life. Basically, the quality of life improves greatly. And today I want to talk about something that I learned, I think like 2 years ago, and has really helped me a lot. What do we do when we receive information? And I'm not talking about receive information like through the ears. I'm talking about all the senses. Like, what is our response when we receive information? And before we even respond, we have to think about it, right? When you encounter something, the first thing that comes to mind is your thoughts. You think something about that thing that you have received, and then you're able to respond. And then the interesting thing is we actually know that our behavior is shaped by our thoughts. How you think will shape how you behave. How you think will shape how you act. How you think will shape how you handle things. And so this is the thing I want us to learn today. How do we process the information that we receive? Have you even thought about it? Now, I have come to learn that there are two kinds of ways we process things. There are people who are called internal processors, and then there are people who are called external processors. Now, I'm saying this in terms of like there are two parts, but in living life, I've realized that sometimes it also depends with circumstance. And we will talk about that as we go ahead. Who is an internal processor? An internal processor will receive information and they will take time to think about it. They will want to handle things internally. They will probably take time to think. And most of the time, you'll find an internal processor will not be quick to respond when you talk to them. Even when you're in meetings, they'll not be quick to respond to thoughts that are being shared. They will be careful with the words they say. They will be careful with the choices of the words. Even they'll be careful with how they want the information that is said to be received. And so they will take a lot of time to think. In fact, internal processors will draw back most of the time and just sit back and think about something before they are able to respond. Now, sometimes if you are surrounded by internal processors, you will always feel like these people are disinterested. It will almost feel like they're disinterested. They don't care. They're not giving you the feedback as fast as you want it. And on the other side of the internal processor, you will realize that themselves sometimes can feel that they are being misunderstood. Sometimes they will feel like their ideas are not valid, or they may want to take a lot of time to think about it, and they may even at some point feel pressured to respond. Now, these are normal things. However, when we do not verbalize the kind of people that we are, you will realize that you'll be a lot of the times misunderstood, and so much pressure will be put on you. And let me explain this as I talk about the external processor. External processors, I am an external processor, tend to think as they speak. They need an avenue to talk. In fact, most of the time when an external processor is processing something, they don't even want to hear what you have to say. Most of the time, they'll come and sit and they'll just start talking. The way they talk, it helps them to think through and it helps them to come to solutions. And it's very interesting because when you find an internal processor and an external processor will be trying to think in their head, what is this person needing? What do I need to tell them? What do I need to give feedback to? And on the other end, an external processor just wants to talk. They don't even want you to share what's on your mind at that time. They probably will get their solution as they talk. I am an external processor, and I'm going to share something personal here. My husband is an internal processor and I am an external processor. And most of the time I would find that at the beginning of our marriage, all I just wanted to do was externally process. And I didn't even realize that that was a thing. And so I would talk and talk and he would interrupt so that he can give me a solution. And that would offend me a lot. And he didn't understand because he was like, I'm giving you a solution. You wanted a solution. I'm giving you a solution. But for me, I wanted to talk it out till it's out of my system. Then I get to a solution. And sometimes it can look like they're just verbally, forgive my words, but verbal diarrhea. But it really, really does help them to get to their point. Now, I had to come to a place where I needed to understand that my husband is an internal processor. And that would mean that he may tell me, okay, I hear you and I need time to think about it and I will give you a solution. So it is important that when you get to such a place and you realize that you are surrounded by an external processor or surrounded by an internal processor, you need to be able to know how to handle them. If you are an internal processor and you're surrounded by external processors, please let them know, hey, it takes me some time to process and think about what you share. So do not be offended if I'm asking you to please clarify something. And you'll always go back to, excuse me, so what do you need from me? What do you want at this point? What kind of response would you like to receive? And if you're an external processor, also, it is important for you to let people know, hey, I am going to talk. I need you to listen. I need you to give me an ear because it will help me get through to the point I want to. And let them talk. And all you need to do is give them a listening ear. Let them know that you're hearing. Let them know that you're following through in their thought process. So this will really help people to stop misunderstanding one another and to have misconceptions about one another. Because an external processor can actually seem like they don't care about the other person's needs. And an internal processor can also seem like they don't care because they are not responding as the external processor would. So it is important to know what kind of processor you are. How do you receive information and how do you think about it? And then how do you respond to it? So hope that helps you in understanding the kind of processor that you are. Now, I realize that sometimes an internal processor might actually need to process some things externally. And an external processor might actually want to process some things internally. It actually depends with the situation, with the circumstances, and with the issue at hand. And it comes out naturally because it's not easy to figure out what exactly you want to externally process as an internal processor or what you want to internally process as an external processor. So it depends with the issue and circumstance at hand. It's important for you to be able to recognize such situations because it will help you also verbalize the same to those who are around you so that then they can be able to understand you. So it depends also with the situation at hand, with the information that is being received, that will determine how someone will be able to externally process or internally process. So I hope that this really helps you in understanding those who are around you. I hope it really helps you to understand the people who just want to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, or the ones who just want to sit back and then think about it and then later come and give feedback. Hey, internal processors, please come back and give feedback because we really want to know what's in your mind. Remember to come and give feedback. Don't leave us hanging. And external processors, please give internal processors time. Give them time to think about it. So thank you so much for being with us. I would love to know, are you an internal processor? Are you an external processor? Did this help you understand your workmates, your friends, your colleagues, your family members? Did it help you understand your loved ones? God bless you. We will see you next week as we look at another tool or another exercise that will help us be more self-aware. Kwaherini. Kwaherini.